What if I told you this? The most powerful thing a man can do is not chase, not argue, not even explain, but disappear. Not in anger, not in weakness, but in calm silence. Because the moment you give her distance, something terrifying happens inside her mind. Something she will never admit out loud. She doesn't feel free. She doesn't feel relieved. She feels unsettled. That silence becomes louder than any words you could ever say. At first, she pretends nothing has changed. She laughs. She posts. She acts as if your absence means nothing. But deep down, her thoughts begin to spiral. Why isn't he calling? Did I push too far? Has he already replaced me? And that, brother, is when the power shifts. This is not about games. It's about discipline, about embracing the timeless stoic truth. The man who controls himself controls everything. So stay with me, because in this video, we're going to uncover exactly what a woman feels when you give her distance and cut all contact step by step, stage by stage, so that you'll never be fooled by appearances again. And if you're ready to reclaim your peace, your strength, and your presence, hit that like button, subscribe, and comment below. My silence is my fortress. Silence is not emptiness. It is a mirror. And the moment you give a woman distance, the first thing it does is awaken her curiosity. At the beginning, she doesn't panic. In fact, she convinces herself that she's in control. She notices you haven't texted, you haven't called, you haven't reached out the way you normally do, and she smirks inwardly, saying, "Good, now he knows his place. Let him wait." But hours turn into days, and suddenly the script begins to flip. She's scrolling through her notifications, half expecting your name to pop up. She's checking if you viewed her story, if you liked her new post, if you left even a trace of your presence. But what she sees is nothing, absolute silence. That silence does something. Her pride wasn't prepared for it, plants a seed of uncertainty. Why hasn't he messaged me yet? Did I go too far? Is he with someone else? And here's the paradox. This curiosity isn't about love at first, it's about ego. For so long, she believed she had you wrapped around her finger, that she could predict your every move, that your emotions danced to her rhythm. Now, for the first time, she doesn't know. This is where the game changes. The power of curiosity in female psychology. Women are emotional beings. Yes, but even deeper. They are instinctual. Their mind is constantly scanning the world for signals. Am I desired? Am I valued? Am I still in control? When you give her distance, you disrupt her instincts. You stop feeding the stream of attention that once reassured her, and without that reassurance, the mind begins to itch. It starts searching for answers in silence, and silence always creates more noise inside her than words ever could. Think about it. You never miss someone who is always available. You miss them when they vanish. You miss them when the routine you took for granted is suddenly broken. That absence becomes an emotional vacuum. And human nature hates vacuums. It rushes to fill them with questions, doubts, and longing. That's why she starts paying attention again. That's why her eyes linger on your profile. That's why she's suddenly curious about what you're doing, who you're with, where you've gone. And here's the key, brother. The more disciplined your silence, the more powerful her curiosity becomes. What most men do wrong. Now let's pause here, because this is where most men fail. When they see a woman pulling back, they panic. They double text. They over-explain. They try to resecure the connection by throwing even more attention her way. But do you know what that does? It kills curiosity. It removes the mystery. It confirms exactly what she already assumed. That no matter what she does, you'll always be there. Waiting, and nothing destroys desire faster than certainty. Stoic wisdom teaches us we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Seneca knew the truth when someone doesn't know where you stand. Their mind will torment them with endless scenarios. That's what your distance does. It forces her imagination to work against her. But the moment you break and reach out too soon, you end her torment. You give her certainty, you give her relief, and ironically, you lose the very leverage your silence created. How curiosity becomes emotional hunger. At first, curiosity is subtle. A quick glance at her phone, a casual check to see if you reacted online. But over time, curiosity becomes hunger. The silence stretches, the questions multiply, and soon, she isn't just curious about why you're silent. She starts to wonder if she lost something valuable. That's when the tables begin to turn. Remember, she's not thinking logically. She's feeling emotionally. Every unanswered question creates a gap she can't control. And in that gap, her respect for you begins to regrow. Because the man who doesn't chase, who doesn't fold, who doesn't flinch, that man is rare, and rarity is irresistible. Think of luxury. Why do people desire a Rolex or a limited edition car? Not because they're always available, but because they're scarce. Your silence does the same thing. It creates scarcity. It makes your presence valuable again. And here's the brutal truth. The only way she can feel your worth is when you remove it from her world, your role holding the frame. Now, let's bring it back to you. Your job in this stage is simple but not easy. Hold your frame. That means no checking her socials, no reaching out, no cryptic posts designed to bait her back. Because if your silence is just a mask for desperation, she will sense it. If you're secretly waiting by the phone, she will feel it. Women have a radar for weakness. True distance means you are genuinely focused on yourself, your mission, your health, your growth. You live as though she's no longer the center of your world. Not because you're pretending, but because you've reclaimed your energy. And here's the beauty of it. The more you let go, the stronger her grip on you becomes. Not because you're manipulating, but because you've stepped into the natural order of attraction, the Stoic lesson. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. When you obsess over her absence, you weaken yourself. But when you focus on your own path, your own discipline, your own mission, you become magnetic. Your silence is not revenge. Your silence is not a tactic. It is a reflection of who you are, becoming a man untouchable, unbothered, unshaken." And that more than anything else is what makes her curious, because now she isn't just wondering if you miss her. She's wondering if you've outgrown her. And that thought, brother, is what keeps her up at night. Silence doesn't just make her curious, it forces her to confront herself. And this is the part most men never allow to happen because they break too soon. They reach out, they explain, they beg for closure. But if you can hold steady, if you can let the silence stretch, something powerful happens. She begins to reflect. And reflection is where regret is born, the nature of female reflection. Women are emotional rememberers, unlike men who often compartmentalize. Women attach feelings to moments and store them like echoes in their mind. Every smile you gave her, every moment you stood by her, every time you showed strength, those emotions didn't disappear when she pulled away. They are still there, buried beneath pride and distraction, but they only resurface in silence. As long as you're texting, calling, or trying to fix things, she has no room to feel. You're giving her constant noise to drown out the echoes. But when you step back, when you give her nothing, those echoes start to come alive. She replays the conversations. She remembers your presence. She feels the difference between your stability and the emptiness of life without you. And here's the paradox. It's not the words you said that she misses. It's the way she felt in your presence. When that feeling is gone, reflection sharpens and regret creeps in. How regret creeps in at first. She tells herself she's fine. She posts pictures. She laughs with friends. She pretends she's glowing with freedom. But when the noise of the outside world fades, when the party ends, when the phone is quiet, when she's alone in her room, the silence speaks louder. That's when the memories come. She remembers how you looked at her like she mattered. She remembers the calm you carried, the way you didn't flinch under pressure. She remembers the little things, the way you listened, the way you made her laugh without trying, the way you gave her a sense of certainty in a chaotic world. Now in your absence, she begins to measure. She compares what she had to what she has now. And that contrast, brother, is poor tale, because while she may meet new men, while she may get attention online, nothing feels the same. The connection lacks depth. The presence lacks weight. And slowly she realizes she didn't just lose a man, she lost a mirror that showed her who she could be when she was with you. The mistake most men make. This is where most men kill their power. The moment they sense her pulling back, they rush to fill the silence with explanations. "I just wanted to check if you're okay. I know we've had issues, but I still love you. Please, can we talk one more time?" Do you see the trap by speaking too soon? You interrupt her reflection. You rescue her from the very discomfort that was leading her to regret. You give her certainty before she has the chance to face the truth. And in doing so, you rob yourself of the most powerful tool, You have distance. The Stoic approach to reflection stoicism teaches us that we don't control others. We only control ourselves. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Her reflection is not something you can force. You cannot argue her into missing you. You cannot persuade her to regret losing you. That's not your job. Your job is to step back, to hold your frame, to let her sit with her own choices without interference. Because the more space you give, the louder the mirror speaks. In that silence, she is forced to confront the reality she avoided, that she may have taken you for granted, that she may have thrown away something valuable, that the stability she thought was guaranteed is now gone. And brother, that realization stings harder than any words you could ever say. Time is your ally. Reflection takes time, sometimes days, sometimes weeks, sometimes months. The deeper the history, the deeper the reflection. But most men can't wait. They grow restless. They tell themselves, if I don't reach out soon, she'll forget me. Wrong. If you were nothing to her, she would have forgotten already. The very fact that she notices your absence means you left an imprint. And that imprint doesn't fade with silence, it deepens. The man who trusts this process, who allows time to do the work of reflection, is the man who wins, not because he manipulates, but because he refuses to interfere with the natural consequences of her choices. Your mission during reflection. Here's the part most men miss. Distance is not waiting. Distance is building. If you spend this time staring at your phone, stalking her socials, or replaying the breakup in your head, you've missed the point. While she reflects, you must evolve. Hit the gym, grow your skills, advance your career, expand your social circle, in short, become more. Because when she does reflect, when regret does begin to creep in, what she should see is not the same man she left behind, but a stronger, sharper, more centered version of him. That contrast magnifies her regret. Distance is not punishment. Distance is transformation, the resolution. So what happens when silence turns into a mirror? She begins to regret. She begins to realize. She begins to feel the weight of her own choices. But here's the twist. You don't need her regret to validate you. You don't need her reflection to prove your worth. The true gift of this stage is not what she feels. It's what you become. A man who no longer chases validation. A man who no longer seeks answers outside himself. A man who trusts that silence. Patience and self-mastery are stronger than any desperate plea. When she finally sees you again, whether in person, online, or through whispers of mutual friends, she won't just see the man she left. She'll see the man she lost. And that, brother, is the deepest regret of all. When you step back and go silent, it doesn't just trigger her emotions, it shatters something deeper, her ego. And this, my brother, is the stage most men never recognize. They think it's about love, about feelings, about whether she misses them. But in reality, the first thing your silence hits is not her heart, it's her pride, the comfort of control. Most women are used to being chased. It's the script they've seen play out 100 times. She pulls away. The guy panics. He do-ball texts. He apologizes for things he didn't even do. He bends. He begs. He validates. And every time that happens, her ego is reinforced. She starts to believe that no matter how she behaves, he'll always be there. It's not about cruelty. It's just human nature. When something is always available, you stop appreciating it. But then one day you stop showing up. No pleading, no explanations, no angry paragraphs, just silence. And suddenly her ego, this fortress she thought was unshakable, develops its first crack. Silence equals loss of power to her. Your silence isn't just "he didn't text me today." It's a loss of control. When you don't react, she can't pull your strings. When you don't chase, she can't feed her pride. When you don't explain yourself, she loses the power to control the emotional climate. And here's the truth for the ego. That loss feels like rejection. The Stoics had a saying, "No man is free who is not master of himself." When you master yourself, you break free not only from needing her, but from allowing her ego to dictate the rhythm of your emotions. And ironically, that freedom is the very thing that makes her feel trapped. How ego pain shows up. When her pride takes that first hit, it rarely shows up as tears. No ego pain is disguised. It slips into little actions you might mistake for indifference. But look closer. The the fake happy post. Suddenly, her social media is glowing with pictures of her laughing, partying, living her best life. But notice the timing. It always begins after you go silent. That smile isn't freedom, it's a performance, a message aimed at you. See, I don't need you. Which ironically proves she still does. The empty text. A random message out of nowhere. Hey, did you still have that jacket of mine? It's not about the jacket. It's a probe. A test. She wants to know if you'll still respond. Indirect moves. Liking your old pictures, asking mutual friends about you, accidentally showing up where you are. These aren't accidents, they're her ego, searching for proof that it still matters. The ego doesn't surrender quietly. It scratches, claws, and tests until it gets reassurance. Where most men fail, this is the trap. Most men, the moment they see that fake happy post or that empty text, break their silence, they jump back in with, "Are you really okay?" Or, "I miss you too." Or worse, they try to one-up her by posting their own performance. The moment you react, the power flips back. You've told her without words that she still has you on the leash. That crack in her ego sealed shut. The stoic frame. So how do you play it? With what I call the stoic frame. You don't react. You don't try to prove. You don't chase validation. You don't even show anger. You simply remain still, grounded, present in your own life. Remember, silence is not emptiness. It is presence without dependence. And presence without dependence is the rarest thing in the world. The more you refuse to feed her ego, the more that crack widens, and eventually, what began as irritation turns into something heavier. Doubt. The doubts that haunt her as her ego falters. She starts asking questions she never thought she'd ask. Maybe I didn't matter as much as I thought. Has he already moved on to someone better? Did I push away a man who wasn't replaceable? After all, these thoughts don't come from love. They come from the collapse of certainty. And certainty is what her ego was built on. You were supposed to chase. You were supposed to break first, but you didn't. And that single deviation from the script forces her to rethink everything. Why the crack matters. Here's the power of this stage. Once her ego is cracked, every other stage becomes possible. Reflection, regret, reevaluation, fear of being replaced. They all begin here. But if you rush in too soon, if you feed her pride again, you undo it all. You patch the crack and she goes back to believing she's untouchable. This is why Stoicism is critical. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." Her pain isn't about you leaving. It's about the belief she once had that you'd never leave. Your silence didn't just prove her wrong. It forced her to confront a truth she never wanted to face. She doesn't own you. Conclusion of the ego crack. So understand this. You don't break her ego by attacking it. You break it by starving it, by refusing to react, by standing so firm in your frame that her usual tactics dissolve into nothing. This is not revenge. This is not cruelty. This is balance. It's the universe correcting itself. Because for too long, her ego was fed at the expense of your self-respect. And when you finally take it back, when you show her that your peace is not for sale, her pride takes a hit. She'll never forget. That's the ego crack. The silent fracture that changes everything. Here's a truth. Most men never realize until it's too late. The moment you step back, your value finally becomes visible. As long as you're always there, always calling, always available, she doesn't see it. Not because you're worthless, but because you're too close. Constant presence breeds blindness. It's only in your absence that the real weight of who you are begins to hit her. The nature of human blindness. Human beings are wired to take for granted what is always available. It's not malicious, it's psychology. The food in the fridge, the air we breathe, the friend who always picks up the phone. None of it gets valued until it's gone. Women are no different in relationships. When you text back instantly, she stops feeling the thrill. When you cancel your plans just to see her, she stops seeing sacrifice. When you always bend, always say yes, always show up, she stops noticing the cost. It's not that you weren't valuable, it's that your value became invisible. The Stoics understood this principle clearly. Epictetus once said, "What we do not value, we misuse." When you hand over your presence too easily, you make it cheap. Absence creates contrast, But the moment you step away, something shifts. Suddenly, the silence you leave behind creates contrast, and in that contrast, her mind begins to notice what she lost. The way you listened when no one else did. The way you made her feel grounded when life felt chaotic. The little things you did, things she overlooked at the time that now echo in her memory. Absence sharpens memory. What was once background noise now becomes vivid in her mind. And here's the twist. She doesn't just miss you, she starts comparing you. The comparison effect. When you're no longer around, she naturally compares the space you left with whatever fills it now. Maybe it's other men texting her. Maybe it's silence. Maybe it's nights out that feel exciting for 5 minutes but leave her feeling empty. But against all of that, the memory of you stands stronger. Not because you were perfect, but because in hindsight, the things you provided stability. Presence energies shine brighter now that they're gone. This is why your absence becomes her teacher. It reminds her of your value more clearly than your presence ever could. Why most men destroy this stage. Here's where most men ruin everything. They don't give it enough time. Instead of holding steady in their silence, they panic. They think if I don't message her soon, she'll forget me, so they break no contact. They send that just checking in text. They show up online posting sad quotes, and in that moment, all the reflection she started to have, all the comparisons she started to make collapse instantly. She no longer feels your absence because you just erased it. Never forget this value is only revealed in contrast. If you rush to close the gap, you erase the very contrast that was making her see you differently, leveling up in the silence. But here's the real secret. This stage isn't just about her realizing your value. It's about you increasing it. Think of distance as a forge. The man she once knew should not be the same man she sees if she ever looks back. Hit the gym. Build your body until you walk into a room differently. Advance your career. Let your ambition and discipline speak louder than any apology ever could. Sharpen your mind. Read, learn, expand. Improve your social presence not by flaunting, but by quietly showing that you're living. Because when she peeks from a distance, and trust me, she will peek, the version of you she sees should feel like a shock. She should think, damn, he looks better. Dumb, he's moving forward. Dumb, he really didn't need me. That's when the regret deepens. That's when the respect returns. Value isn't told, it's felt. Understand this. You can't convince her of your value by arguing. You can't list your qualities in a text or speech. Value is never spoken, it's felt. And nothing makes a woman feel your value more than the void you leave when you step away. It's like removing a key instrument from a song. She doesn't realize how much it mattered until the music feels empty without it. The silence becomes your proof, the absence becomes your statement. And the life you build while she's gone becomes undeniable evidence that you were never dependent on her validation in the first place. The Stoic approach. The Stoics remind us waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. B1. This is the essence of distance. You don't waste your breath trying to make her see your worth. You become so steady, so disciplined, so grounded that she cannot ignore it even from far away. The greatest revenge is not anger. The greatest attraction is not chasing. The greatest validation is not words. It's peace, progress, presence. Conclusion, distance turns the tables. So remember this. When you pull back, you're not punishing her. You're revealing yourself. You're creating the silence where she can finally feel what you brought into her life. But more importantly, you're reminding yourself of the truth. Your value was never dependent on her recognition. It was always there. It only needed space to shine. And when you let distance do its work, when you stand firm in your silence and build yourself relentlessly, you don't just make her reflect, you become unforgettable. Because a man who can step back without fear is a man she can never replace. There is one fear that strikes deeper in a woman's mind than almost anything else. The fear of being replaced, not the fear of losing you. In theory, not the fear of you walking away, but the raw, unsettling thought that another woman could step into her place. That single thought can unravel her confidence, her pride, and her composure faster than anything you could ever say. The silent assumption. Most women, especially when a man has been emotionally invested, walk around with a silent assumption. I am irreplaceable to him. They expect that no matter what happens, no matter how far they pull away, you'll still be there orbiting, waiting, hoping. Why? because most men reinforce this belief. They make her the center of their universe. They overinvest while she underinvests. They give constant validation. Primo constant chasing. This creates a dynamic where she feels she has permanent leverage over your emotions. She can disappear and you'll still be there. She can disrespect and you'll still forgive. She can withhold and you'll still chase. But the moment you step back and stay silent, that illusion shatters, the gut punch of distance. When you disappear, when your attention no longer flows to her, the thought creeps in. What if he's giving that energy to someone else? It doesn't matter if you actually are or not. What matters is that the possibility exists, and that possibility lights a fire of fear. She starts asking herself dangerous questions. Is he talking to another woman right now? Did I just get replaced by someone younger, prettier, more feminine? Did I lose my spot forever? This is the pain point most women never admit out loud. It's not just about losing you, it's about losing exclusivity, losing the place she thought only she could occupy. From jealousy to obsession. At first, the fear shows up as jealousy. She might get irritated when she sees you smiling in a picture. Even if she has no proof of anything, she might stalk your social media, searching for hints. She might casually ask mutual friends about you, but if you remain calm, unmoved, and private, jealousy begins to transform. It becomes obsession because the mind hates a mystery. The unknown is the greatest fuel for curiosity. The less she knows about what you're doing, the more her imagination works against her. And here's the paradox. The very silence she once hated now becomes addictive. She can't stop thinking about what you're doing in it. The role of discipline. This is where most men break. They see her jealousy peek through, and they get excited. They respond too quickly. They try to reassure her. They give her confirmation that yes, she's still special. And in that instant, the fear of being replaced dissolves. She feels safe again, and you lose your leverage. But the stoic man does not fold. He understands that discipline is power. Your silence is not cruelty. Your distance is not revenge. It's clarity. By not rushing to reassure her, you let her wrestle with her own fear. You let her feel the weight of what life is like without the guarantee of your attention. The Stoic angle, non-attachment. The Stoics taught, he who needs nothing cannot be controlled. And that is exactly the energy you project when you hold the frame during her fear of replacement. You are not cruel, you are not dismissive. You are simply unshaken. You don't post desperation online. You don't text her to prove you're fine. You don't respond to her subtle traps. Instead, you live. You grow. You expand. And in that expansion, she feels the truth. He doesn't need me to survive. He doesn't even need me to thrive. That realization cuts deeper than any insult ever could. Subtle signs of her fear. When this stage kicks in, you'll notice small but telling behaviors. She suddenly comments on your posts after ignoring you for weeks. She asks in direct questions. So, are you seeing anyone these days? She posts subtle digs aimed at you, trying to spark a reaction. She makes little sarcastic remarks about girls throwing themselves at you. None of this is random. It's her ego flaring up under the weight of insecurity. The key is not to meet sarcasm with sarcasm or jealousy with reassurance. The key is to stay calm, collected, detached. Why this stage hurts her the most? Think about it. The worst pain isn't just losing someone. It's realizing they didn't collapse without you, that they moved on, grew stronger, and possibly upgraded. It's one thing for her to think you miss her. That keeps her ego intact. But the moment she realizes you're fine, better than fine without her, that's devastation. Because now she has to accept a brutal truth. She was never as irreplaceable as she believed. Your power in silence. This stage is not about flaunting new women or trying to make her jealous on purpose. That only reveals you still care what she thinks. Instead, your power leaves in key at progress. You become fitter, sharper, more ambitious. You move with calm confidence, not anger. You let her imagination do all the work. In time, her fear turns into respect. She might not admit it. She might never say it directly, but deep down, she knows you are not a man who can be controlled by her presence or her absence. Conclusion: replaceable or untouchable. The ultimate transformation of this stage is not about making her jealous. It's about proving to yourself that you are untouchable. When she feels the fear of being replaced, she finally sees what you've known all along. Your value does not depend on her recognition. Your worth is not tied to her presence. Your life moves forward with or without her. And when you embody that truth, you stop being a man she thinks she can replace. You become the man she can never forget. Every relationship, whether spoken or silent, operates on an invisible balance of power. It's not about money, looks, or who says I love you first. It's about emotional leverage. Who reacts more? Who needs more? Who breaks frame first? When you give a woman distance and refuse to chase, something remarkable happens. The balance begins to shift. Suddenly, the control she once held starts to slip through her fingers. And for the first time, she's forced to confront a new reality. You are no longer orbiting her world. She's orbiting yours, from certainty to uncertainty. At the beginning, she thought she had you. She was certain of your devotion, your validation, your constant presence. That certainty gave her the upper hand. She could pull back knowing you'd lean in. She could test, knowing you'd react. But when you cut the noise, when you stop reacting, stop over-explaining, stop running after her, the certainty evaporates. And nothing shakes a woman more than uncertainty. She goes from, I know he'll text me back, to, why hasn't he texted me back, from he'll always be there, to has he moved on without me? Uncertainty is what flips the script, because what she once controlled is now slipping into your hands. Why silence is louder than words. Here's the paradox. You don't shift power by fighting for it. You don't regain control by arguing, debating, or proving yourself. You shift power by withdrawing your energy and holding your frame. Silence becomes your weapon. Not silence filled with bitterness or passive aggression, but steady, unshaken silence that communicates one truth. I don't need this. I don't need you to feel whole. When she tests you and gets no reaction. When she posts to provoke and you don't flinch. When she reaches out with bait and you remain calm, that's when the shift begins, because she realizes something terrifying. She no longer has control over your emotions. And once that control is gone, respect begins to grow in its place, the stoic angle holding the frame. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." That is exactly what happens when you embrace the power shift. You stop trying to control her behavior, and instead you control your own. And ironically, the less you try to control her, the more power you hold. Because now the frame is yours. She's responding to you, not the other way around. This is why stoicism is so lethal in relationships. It makes you unshakable. And when you're unshakable, she has no choice but to adjust to you. Signs the power has shifted. If you've held your frame long enough, you'll begin to notice subtle but undeniable changes in her behavior. Her tone softens. The once cold, dismissive tone now carries curiosity, sometimes even nervousness. She's no longer speaking from a pedestal. She's speaking from uncertainty. 2. She seeks your attention where she once ignored. She now initiates messages, likes, comments, little pings of validation aimed at pulling you back into orbit. 3. She tests differently. The old games no longer work. Now the tests become more subtle, more disparate. Instead of pushing you away, they're designed to pull you closer. 4. She mirrors your energy. When you're calm, she tries to match your calm. When you're silent, she begins to fill the silence. The leadership has shifted. You set the rhythm. Why most men lose the power shift. Here's the tragedy. Most men sabotage themselves right at the moment the power shift is taking place. They mistake her softened tone for reconciliation. They see her reaching out and think, finally, I've won her back. But the moment they jump back in with desperate energy explaining, apologizing, overcommitting, they reset the dynamic. The power shift collapses, and she's back in control. The stoic man doesn't make that mistake. He doesn't rush to reopen doors just because she knocks. He lets her stay in uncertainty long enough for respect to take root. The psychology of scarcity. Scarcity is one of the most powerful forces in human behavior. People don't value what they have unlimited access to. They value what they might lose. When you stop giving her unlimited access to your energy, your attention, your validation, you become scarce, and scarcity creates desire. It's the same reason a limited edition watch, a sold-out concert, or a rare gem carries more value. Not because the object changed, but because its availability did. Your energy is no different. The moment she realizes it's not infinite, she treats it differently. She respects it, turning the power shift into strength. Now here's the most important part. The power shift is not about domination. It's not about controlling her, playing games, or revenge. It's about equilibrium. It's about reclaiming your position as a man who leads himself first. When you stop being the man who needs her to feel complete, you become the man who is complete on his own. And from that space, you decide not out of desperation, but out of strength, whether she fits into your life or not. That's what makes the shift permanent. The final image, picture this. The man who once begged for replies now sits in silence, calm and composed. The woman who once felt untouchable now checks her phone, wondering if she still matters. That is the power shift. Not because you manipulated, not because you played games, but because you finally stopped giving her control over your emotions. And once that shift happens, the dynamic of respect, attraction, and power changes forever. The stoic truth. The true power shift is not about her. It's about you. It's about rising above neediness. It's about mastering your emotions. It's about proving to yourself and to her that your peace does not depend on anyone else. And when you embody that, you don't just attract her attention, you command her respect. Brother, now you see the truth. When you give a woman distance, when you stop chasing, when you stop pouring your energy into someone who pulled away, you flip the script. Curiosity grows, reflection kicks in, her ego takes the hit, and suddenly, the power dynamic changes forever. But here's the real victory. It's not about making her suffer. It's not about getting her back. It's about you. It's about becoming the man who doesn't crumble, who doesn't beg, who doesn't need validation to feel whole, a man who leads himself first. That's the stoic path. That's the path of true power. So from this moment on, I want you to remember this truth. Peace is your greatest weapon. Silence is your fortress. And distance is the mirror that reveals your value. If this message hit you deep, don't just sit on it, act on it. Smash that like button so YouTube shows this to other men who need this wisdom. Subscribe and turn on notifications because this is just the beginning. We're building strength, clarity, and unshakable discipline every single day. And in the comments, I want you to write, "My silence creates power." Say it, claim it, own it. Because once you do, you stop being the man who chases and you become the man who attracts. Stay strong, stay alpha truzen, and I'll see you in the next video.